welcome to IDDTalks here at AD University. My name is Anastasia Laurina, and now I'm joined by Mr. Richard Hoagland, who is Security and Political Program Chair and Board Member of the Caspian Policy Center based in Washington, D.C., United States of America. More welcome.
It's my pleasure. Thanks to you.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining IDDTalks today. Well, last week, during the visit of the president of Turkmenistan to Azerbaijan, two sides signed a joint statement and a number of agreements covering transport, customs cooperation, trade, and economic relations. To what extent do these agreements represent routine bilateral cooperation? And to what extent do they signal a strategic shift in the relationship between Baku and Ashgabat?
I think there are probably two levels that we should look at here. First, at the technical level, the agreements included customs between the two countries. And for international trade and transportation and commerce, that's extremely important that the two countries coordinate their customs systems. That's something that has been recommended for years and years and years now, but it's only beginning to take place. And that shows that there is increasing attention to the middle corridor. More broadly, I think what this is showing is that in Central Asia, they have had the C5 for at least 10 years now, 5 countries. In the very recent months, Azerbaijan is increasingly included so that it's almost become a C6. And what this means is that slowly, the links for the middle corridor, all the way from China across Central Asia, across the Caspian Sea, into Azerbaijan, and then on to Turkey and into Europe, that's all becoming more and more of a reality. People like to talk about policy of Central Asia and the Caucasus, but it's the reality that's more important than policy, because policy is words on paper. Reality is what's really happening, and what's happening now is very good.
Mr. Hoagland, is this visit evidence that the Central Asia and the South Caucasus are becoming part of a more integrated geopolitical and economic space?
Simply the fact that this visit took place. The leader of Turkmenistan, current leader of Turkmenistan, and the current leader of Azerbaijan, they are both second-generation leaders now. Yes, they were from the same families, but nevertheless, what I'm talking about is historic generation. Things change sometimes in normal life, rapid a crisis, but generally, change is very, very slow. With the two leaders of the important countries of the Caspian region meeting now, that is a very, very positive development.
Mr. Hoagland, you yourself mentioned the Middle Corridor, which is an essential part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. And this corridor indeed gained growing international attention as countries seek an alternative to traditional Eurasian trade routes due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the situation and the war in the Middle East. What role can two countries, Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan, realistically play in transforming the Caspian region into a major transit hub between Asia and Europe?
Well, the fact that they simply coordinated their customs shows how important this trade across the Caspian is becoming right now. And so that is a very solid, positive development. There's something else that's been in the works for not just years, but for decades now. And I thought it was quite interesting that all of the press reports about this important visit that just occurred did not mention it. And that's the Trans-Caspian pipeline that would link Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan so that the natural gas and perhaps oil later, but the natural gas from Turkmenistan would flow across the Caspian into Azerbaijan's network, which then links into Turkey and Europe. That's terribly important. And another positive aspect is the growing peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia. That's making more and more sense for all of this to become a permanent structure now, the Middle Corridor.
Yes, Mr. Hoagland, absolutely. You touched a very important element, the energy cooperation between two countries, Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. And it's not a secret that Turkmenistan possesses one of the world's largest natural gas reserves. And the possible cooperation between two countries, Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan, in the transportation of the Caspian gas to the European energy markets through the Southern Gas Corridor, one of the key elements, one of the key topics. So do you see the realistic prospects for larger volumes of Turkmen gas reaching Europe through the Azerbaijani infrastructure?
Well, first of all, yes, there is more being reported, more transit being reported, and it's done through what's called gas shifts. Turkmenistan sends its gas to Iran, and then Iran uses its gas back into the system that goes into Europe. That is positive, that's good, but it's only a minor part of the future of what can really happen. The really big thing is going to be the Trans-Caspian pipeline. I think it's very interesting that the long-serving foreign minister of Turkmenistan was very recently in the United States and met with our president. That is very, very unusual. I know Foreign Minister Muradov personally. I've worked with him in the past, and he would not have made a visit like that unless he had something terribly important to discuss. Did they discuss the Trans-Caspian pipeline? Any source that you look at is not mentioning that, which in some ways would indicate that's going on behind the scenes, but it's being very, very quiet and secretive right now because Iran would oppose it and Russia would oppose it.
Yes, Mr. Hoagland, absolutely. Now, from the global perspectives, previously you mentioned C5+1, C6+1 format of cooperation, and we cannot ignore the fact that the United States has significantly increased its engagement in both the South Caucasus and the Central Asia over the past year. So to what extent the growing cooperation between Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, and other Central Asian states aligned with a broader U.S. Strategic elements, strategic interests in the regions?
Well, please understand that I am no longer a member of the US government and I play no role in those policies. I simply follow from the outside and have good sources among the countries themselves. I think what is happening is that our current administration here in Washington is paying much more attention to this region than the United States has in many, many, many years now. Look, very early on in this administration, there was the announcement of the TRIP corridor to transit across Armenia from Azerbaijan to its exclave and on into Turkey. The current administration in Washington has appointed a special envoy for South and Central Asia. And this envoy, Ambassador Sergio Gore, has been traveling through the region of Central Asia very recently. This is all quite we haven't had this kind of focus on the Caspian region for many, many years. And I hope, fingers crossed, that this is a positive sign.
Mr. Hoagland, during his visit to Azerbaijan, President of Turkmenistan, together with the President of Azerbaijan, traveled to liberated Karabakh. Two leaders visited Shusha. And we all know that since the end of the 44 days patriotic war, since the time when Karabakh and Eastern Gizur had been liberated from Armenian occupation, Azerbaijan invested heavily to the reconstruction and the rebuilding of those territories. And apart from this, Azerbaijan repeatedly described the reconstruction and the reintegration of Karabakh and Eastern Gizur as one of the country's top national priorities. So to what extent do you see these territories becoming a part of a broader regional connectivity linking the South Caucasus with Central Asia?
It's going to take time, as everything does. when you are building or rebuilding, repairing, adding new infrastructure. Those are very long projects. But the important point is they are already underway. Either they are in planning stage or they're in the construction stage. The reconstruction of the region, all the way from Baku across Armenia into Turkey, that is enormously important and is providing the kind of peace potential for the region that has not been seen since the independence of the new nations after the fall of the Soviet Union. We're in a very new stage right now.
Mr. Hoagland, the South Caucasus and the Caspian Sea region indeed attracts the global attention. China's Belt and Road Initiative, the Middle Corridor, the European Union's global gateway strategy, the growing American and European interests in Eurasian connectivity, all intersect in the Caspian region. So is the Caspian region becoming a meeting point for competing global vision of connectivity?
Well, it depends on what kind of meeting you're talking about. Are you talking about the heads banging each other or talking behind the scenes and finding ways to cooperate? Again, that's the kind of thing that happens in quiet diplomatic channels. I think it's very positive that China and Russia and the United States and the European Union are all paying attention to the region. This is what uh, is called multi-vector foreign policy by the region. And it was actually Kazakhstan that invented this term, but more and more multi-vector foreign policy is taking place in the region. What that does is focus the interests of the world onto the region to help them understand why it's important geopolitically and why it's important commercially. Yes, the Belt and Road Initiative was initiated by China all the way back in 2013 when it was announced in Astana. But it's taken years and years and years to get all of this underway, and it's costing tens and hundreds of billions of dollars to build all this new infrastructure. It takes time. We need to be a little bit patient. I would love to see it happen tomorrow, but it is in process, and that's good news.
Right. Mr. Hoagland, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining IDDTalks.
And you too. Thank you so much for your excellent questions. I appreciate it.